You are listening to Sprint or Die Radio, delivering the knowledge on all things speed training, coaching development, and life lessons. Passion perpetuates purpose. Here is your host, Hunter Charneski.
All right, welcome back to Sprint or Die Radio. I am your host, Hunter Charneski, and today we're going to be changing directions a little bit, talking about agility. You see what I did there? I got dad jokes coming out of my ears, guys. I'm just going to be upfront and honest with you. But anyways, 3 things you need to know about agility and why. Why are we talking about it? Well, it comes down to, what do you want, right? What do you want? Regardless if you're in the private sector or the team setting, you want a comprehensive program that strategically maximizes your athlete's movement capability on the field, on the court, on the ice, etc. But there's a problem. And the problem, in my opinion, are those dogmatic authorities that we have in our industry. And what makes it an even bigger problem is because a lot of times those authorities, right, who hold on to those dogmas are the same authorities that we look up to. Okay? So what does this leave you with? It leaves you with a lack of true understanding and competency, quite frankly, of agility training. Because of the mixed messaging we hear and see from those dogmatic authorities, right? Because there's usually 2 sides to this coin, if you will. There's the general, and then there's the sport-specific authorities, right? There's, with the general side of the coin, right? The general physical preparedness side of things, it's usually the sprint-only crowd, right? And I know what you're thinking. You're like probably scratching your head saying, okay, Hunter, the name of the show is Sprint or Die Radio, dude, right? Aren't you the guy that's always harping about running faster in a straight line will solve all your problems? Now, I understand, and I'm human, right? I can admit to making that mistake a time or two in my life, drifting towards, right, the very general side of things, perhaps too far. But there's the other side of the coin too, with the sport-specific crew, right? Who talk about, we don't need to sprint. We don't need to sprint is like anything over 20, 30 meters, right? Everything we should be doing is close and open agility drills, multi-directional speed and change direction. That's all that we need to do. But as long as we're monitoring our volumes, we're all good. Okay? And I don't think it's that simple either way, right? Because in my mind, agility is the ultimate dichotomy in terms of movement quality and how it relates to the athlete's sport, right? You need some, right? Because change of direction, learning how to absorb and reproduce force, getting back to acceleration, that's important, right? That is important to learn. Getting our athletes in position to do so effectively, but also safely, right? But you also don't want to do too much of it, because the wear and tear that comes with all of those cutting drills is extremely hard on the body. And as we've talked about in the previous episodes, a lot of those inequalities can be enhanced just by putting more force into the ground per stride at higher speeds when running in a straight line. Okay? We do need it though. Agility it bridges the gap, if you will, between, the very general max velocity sprinting capabilities to the very specific, chaotic, unpredictable, reactive environment that sport presents. So inside, this must be leaving you confused, right? Almost have like you feel this sense of having to appease those dogmatic authorities when you write your programming. Okay? Because agility can be a difficult quality to understand and program for, but it doesn't have to be. I've been where you're at. Okay? I have been that guy who, no matter what the population was, middle school, high school, professional athlete, you name it, writing the program down on the whiteboard or in Excel, Microsoft Word, whatever. And as I'm writing it, I've got Derek Hansen sitting on one shoulder and Joe Ken sitting on the other. And they're both whispering in my ears, right? I'm writing my programs, or I should say I was writing my programs thinking about what they would think about it, right? All right, well, this is what I'm going to do for this linear speed session here. Here's what I'm going to build up to the max velocity work. Here's what I'm going to do a little bit afterwards for supplementary exercises. What would Derek think about this? Would Derek approve, right? All right, well, now we're in the weight room. Okay, using a tier system template. All right, well, it's day one, so we know it's a TLU split. And we're middle schoolers. Okay, original strength concepts. All right, slow cook. Would Joe Ken give the nod for something like this? Right? Those thoughts ran through my head. Okay, so I know how you feel. I've been there. And it's funny, right? Because one, Joe Ken and Derek Hansen probably don't give two shits about what exactly I was doing from a programming standpoint, X's and O's, right? They probably couldn't care less. They got their own problems in life to worry about, right? Yet here I am trying to please them on Instagram, right? And that's sad, because I think that's a lot of where young coaches are today, right? We're portraying a different side of ourselves, or perhaps we're not being true to ourselves in order to get the nod, right? We're sacrificing our authenticity at times for approval of others that we look up to, right? So that was the first point. And the second point with that is, I don't think Joe Ken or Derek Hansen have any business telling me what to do with my programming inside of my business, right? Having been the owner of Freak Factory, or what I'm doing now with Charnowski Power. And that isn't a knock to them, okay? You guys know I love Joe Ken, and unless you've been hiding under a rock, Derek Hansen is my coach, right? He writes my programs for me, okay? So this isn't a knock against them. It's just the truth, right? They don't have the context of the situations that I'm specifically dealing with, right? And the situations are so specific and unique, right? That how can they just come in and, or I mean, they just wouldn't, right? They wouldn't offer a you should do this explanation. They wouldn't, right? Because they're wise, right? Experience breeds wisdom, okay? So just know that I've been where you're at in terms of, being a little confused as far as how to program for agility, right? And rest assured, I do believe I have something valuable to offer in this arena, even though it's not dealing with running in a straight line, right? Because there might be some cynics listening, and I don't blame you, right? Right? There might be some cynics listening saying, okay, well, why do you deserve to have an opinion on agility, right? I'm right there with you, my friend. Because when I think of agility, I think of Lee Taft, right? I don't think anybody thinks of Hunter Charnowski. I don't think anybody thinks of sprint or die with an agility drill, right? So what gives me the authority, right? Why do I deserve to have an opinion on this matter? And the answer is because I was in the same problem. I was facing the same obstacle as you were, as you perhaps are right now. And I had to find a way around it, right? I had to fix it. I had to craft a solution, right, to solve this this dichotomy that is agility, right? I had to get the buy-in from parents. I had to get the buy-in from athletes to be interested because, let's face it, kids do want to run, cut, and do all that cool stuff, right? They do, okay? But in doing so, I also didn't want it to become a fucking circus. I wanted it to be good quality work that we were getting in. And if you were at Andy McCloy's event in late April down in Huntsville, Alabama at BCI Sports Performance and Fitness, then you know all about Speed Stratum. Okay? I guess this is a soft opening or soft revealing of Speed Stratum. Right? But in essence, what Speed Stratum is a layering system to holistically develop and enhance the three qualities simultaneously. Right? Speed, agility, and quickness, not having to dedicate a session to each. Right? So the coaches that were in attendance there, right, there are some early adopters who do know about this, right? And I plan to bring this out a little bit further later down the road. This isn't a marketing message for it. I'm just explaining to you how I solved it, the problem, right? Guys like Caleb Lindsay, Ryan Connor, Thomas Bowes, they're using this system and seeing results. And so that's why I'm confident that I do have some value to bring to the world of agility. So what are the three things that we need to know regarding agility, right? Change of direction, multi-directional speed. The vernacular doesn't matter. Okay, we're all talking about the same thing. The first thing you need to know about agility is that if you're not displaying frontal plane control, it's a wash. Forget it. Okay? So that may be sobering for some, but I hope it's more liberating for others. Okay? I mean, you see some of the absolute abortions of exercises and drills on Instagram that are called agility and change of direction drills. And I'm looking at it and it's just like, okay, well, where is the frontal plane control? Right? But then on the other side of the coin, right, which is the vast majority of you listening to this podcast, it should be very liberating. Like, oh, that's one big rock of agility is frontal plane control. And what do I mean by frontal plane control? Laterally controlling your body, right? Left to right, right? Absorbing and reproducing force left to right, laterally in the frontal plane. Okay? Lee Taft talks about getting stiff quickly, right? The best athletes can get stiff and then unstiff really quickly, right? It's called intermuscular coordination. So if you are displaying frontal plane control, know that you are already one half there with your drill in order to develop agility. The other half is getting back to acceleration. That's it. Okay? In order for a drill to be considered an agility drill, it needs to contain those two components. Display frontal plane control and get back to acceleration. And I'd like to just go on record and say that we need to have a unifying, universal definition of agility. And I think that's easy to grasp for everybody. It's simple. And it works. Display frontal plane control and get back to acceleration. That's agility. Right? Think about some of the greats that we would deem very agile. Barry Sanders, Michael Vick, Allen Iverson. Right? What were they able to do better than anybody? They got stiff extremely quick, right? Breaking their opponent's ankles. And then they put on the fucking accelerator and got back to vertical yesterday. Right? Those are extremely agile athletes. They were phenomenal at shimmying and shaking in the frontal plane, putting their foot in the ground, and then getting back to vertical. Right? Only for the next defender to have to suffer the same fate. Right? Puts the foot in the ground, shakes them, gets back vertical. Wash, rinse, repeat. That's it. Okay? So if your drills are doing that, you are developing and enhancing agility. Don't make it any more difficult than that. That's it. Whether it's a lateral half kneeling start, a lateral push-up start, a lateral hurdle jumps to burst, a lateral shuffle to acceleration, a lateral crossover to acceleration, a partner mirror drill that breaks out into a dead sprint afterwards. That's it. That's all you need. Cut the fat, right? What's the Bruce Lee quote? Keep what is essential, discard what is useless, add what is uniquely your own, right? Add what is uniquely your own in terms of the athletes that are presented to you at your facility or team, right? Be a plan B coach, go off the script. That's all you gotta do. So I would hope that we have a better understanding of what agility actually is for this. I've driven that point home now. And it's not just me, right? Like, it's not like, well, Hunter Sharnaski needs to get off his fucking high horse. One of the masters, I think, of this, who does do a phenomenal job of bridging that gap between sprinting and pure change of direction, is Lauren Landau. And that's actually who I got a lot of this idea from, in terms of like coining the term agility, like what actually encapsulates that. Because if you watch Lauren Landau is the head strength coach of the Denver Broncos, right? I took Thomas and my former employee, Mary Kate, to a speed mastermind in Denver back in 2017. And I think that's what made Lauren's presentation so great, is that no matter what they were doing, from a change of direction, multi-directional speed, agility standpoint, the drill always ended with a burst. Right? So if you're not going to take my word for it, look to one of the best in the industry to do it, right? Lauren Landau is not a dumb guy. Brilliant. Then the third thing you need to know about agility. Slice the volume by 50%. Right? Hakan Anderson, Lee Taft would say 20. Given my experience with athletes that I've worked with, right, having a lot of my volume be in a straight line, and the time constraints that we have in the team setting or the private sector, right? You know, if I'm going to choose between what gets more volume and what gets less, I'm choosing speed's going to get more and agility's going to get a little bit less, right? For the same reasons that we talked about before in the previous episodes, right? So we can improve agility by just sprinting in a straight line, okay? But we do need to address it. So how much do we do? Well, let's just, okay, so if we're doing 120 yards of sprinting today, we're only going to do 60 of that, or we're only going to do an additional 60 being agility. Right? Because the wear and tear from the cutting drills are hard. Right? They're hard on the kids. If you go over, in my opinion, 50% of the volume in terms of what you did for the speed day in that same session or the day previous. Right? Minimal effective dose. Okay? So those are the three things that you need to know. That's it. Display frontal plane control, get back to acceleration, and then whatever you're doing from a volume standpoint, just make sure it's 50% less of whatever your speed volume was, either that same session or the day previous. That's it. That's it. right? And then let's just get something straight. It isn't my intention to be seen as the guru on the mountain, as Buddy Morris would say. It's only my intention to share with you what has worked for me and a few of these early adopters that we talked about, Thomas, Ryan, and Caleb. Okay? And I'll put some examples in the show notes in terms of what I'm talking about as far as some of these exercises, right? Like a lateral seated start. Okay? Simple stuff. Simple stuff. You guys know me, right? The most powerful things in the world are simple in nature. Don't overthink the room on this, right? Display frontal plane control, get back to acceleration, and slice the volume to 50%. Those are the three things that you need to know about agility, right? If you want to be one of these early adopters for Speed Stratum, email me, hunter@charneskypower.com, and we'll schedule an in-person workshop to do just that. We'll build out your exercise pool, all of your speed exercises, all of your agility exercises, all of your quickness exercises, and then we'll put them in a layering template for you that is specific to you and your situation for your athletes. That way you'll be able to holistically address all three qualities every single time they walk in the door, right? Getting buy-in from the parents, growing your business, and feeling good about the service you're providing. Also, if you want to get on the waiting list for the book, because this will be my next book, Speed Stratum, Layering Ground Contact Qualities, I will put the waiting list link in the show notes. Be sure to click on that, and you will be on the waiting list for the book when it comes out. This is a good thing, right? This is a good thing. Knowing about agility. Feeling confident in your agility know-how. Not crushing your athletes, right? Bridging the gap between linear speed and sports specificity. Okay? If you do those three things, you will end in success, just like that. You will be taken care of. I promise you. Right? If you don't, you're going to be continued to be cowed by these dogmas. Athletes will continue to suffer unnecessary wear and tear, and you won't have a complete program. Right? I'm here to help. I want to transform. I want to help you transform, rather. Right? From confused and frustrated to having clarity and confidence in a program that you have to offer that strategically maximizes your athletes' movement capabilities. That's all I got for you guys today. I'll see you next time on Sprint or Die Radio. Bye.
This week's episode of Sprint or Die Radio has now come to an end. Make sure to set your podcatcher now and never miss another second. And remember, passion perpetuates purpose. Join us again next time.